Dr. Maya Kincaid had always dreamed of discovering new life forms, but becoming stranded on an alien planet wasn't part of the plan. The research vessel's emergency pod had protected her during the crash landing, but the communication array was beyond repair. The lush, violet-tinged jungle surrounding her gleamed with bioluminescent flora unlike anything catalogued in Earth's databases. Day 16 on planet designation XR7, Maya spoke into her handheld recorder, brushing damp auburn hair from her forehead. Oxygen levels remain within human tolerance. Water sources appear potable after filtration. She paused, examining a flower that pulsed with inner light. Still no sign of intelligent life, though something keeps moving my camp markers. The rustling behind her came without warning. Maya spun around, stumbling backward as she found herself face to chest with a being that certainly qualified as intelligent life, and incredibly imposing life at that. He stood at least 7 feet tall, humanoid but clearly alien, with midnight blue skin that shimmered with a subtle iridescence. Intricate patterns of bioluminescent markings traced across his broad shoulders and muscular arms. Most striking were the 3 elongated, crystalline crests protruding from his skull, glowing with an internal azure light. His eyes, 4 of them, arranged in a diamond pattern, narrowed as he assessed her. The lower pair blinked while the upper remained fixed on her face. He wore minimal clothing, a harness of some leather-like material across his chest, and a wrap of similar material around his hips. Various implements hung from the harness, including what was unmistakably a weapon. "Hello," Maya managed, her scientific mind racing despite her fear. "I mean no harm, I'm lost," she gestured to herself. "Maya, my name is Maya." The alien tilted his head, revealing more of the luminous crests. He made a series of clicking sounds followed by a rumbling vocalization. "Tharok," he finally said, in a surprisingly clear approximation of human speech, though the word resonated with harmonic undertones no human could produce. "Tharok," Maya repeated, relieved at this small communication breakthrough. "I need help, my ship," she pointed toward the sky. The alien, Tharok, stepped closer, looming over her. Maya backed away, her heel catching on a root. She pitched backward with a startled cry, instinctively reaching out to catch herself. Her fingers brushed against one of Tharok's glowing crests. The effect was immediate and electric. Tharok froze, all 4 eyes widening in what appeared to be shock. The crests brightened intensely, pulsing with energy that seemed to synchronize with his suddenly elevated breathing. "I'm sorry," Maya scrambled to her feet. "I didn't mean to." Tharok made a deep, resonant sound that vibrated through Maya's chest. He reached toward her with a 4-fingered hand, touching her temple with surprising gentleness. A tingling sensation spread from the contact point, followed by an odd clarity. "Bond mate," Tharok said, the word now perfectly comprehensible. "You have chosen." "What? No, I just fell. It was an accident." Maya stepped back, confused by her sudden ability to understand him more clearly. Tharok's upper eyes blinked slowly. "The joining does not recognize accidents. The crests receive only truth. You are Kavai now, life-bound." He reached for her hand, his expression a mixture of reverence and determination. "You come to clan." "Wait, I can't just—" Maya's protest was cut short as Tharok effortlessly lifted her, cradling her against his chest. The proximity sent an unexpected warmth through her body, a response she attributed to stress and adrenaline. "The stars have spoken," Tharok said with finality. "Tharok has waited many cycles for a mate strong enough to ignite the crests. The clan will celebrate our joining." As he carried her deeper into the alien forest, Maya's scientific mind raced to understand the cultural implications of what had just happened, and how she might explain that on Earth, touching someone's head ornaments didn't constitute a marriage proposal. Yet beneath her confusion, a small, unexpected thrill sparked to life. She was about to gain unprecedented access to an alien culture no human had ever documented, if only it hadn't come with an accidental engagement to its most intimidating warrior. The Valkari settlement emerged from the jungle like a living organism. Structures of interwoven bioluminescent vines and crystalline formations created a network of dwellings that pulsed with the same ethereal light as Tharok's crests. Maya observed everything with scientific fascination despite her precarious situation. As Tharok carried her into the village center, dozens of aliens similar to him emerged from the structures. They varied in height and build. Some had 2 crests instead of 3, others displayed different patterns of bioluminescent markings. All regarded her with unmistakable curiosity. "Therak returns with Kavai," announced a female valkari, her voice melodic yet authoritative. She approached them, her 4 eyes examining Maya intently. She was nearly as tall as Therak, but more lithe, with elaborate markings that suggested high status. "Elder Kasira," Therak said respectfully, finally setting Maya on her feet but keeping a possessive hand on her shoulder. The outsider touched the sacred crests. The bond ignited. Maya found herself suddenly able to understand their language, presumably from whatever neural connection Therak had established earlier. "There's been a misunderstanding," she attempted to explain. "On my world, touching someone doesn't create any kind of bond." Elder Kasira's head tilted. "The crests do not respond to mere physical contact, Star Traveler. They awaken only to compatible life energy." She circled Maya, assessing. "Extraordinary, your form is different, yet your essence resonated with Therak's crests. The ancestral records speak of such rarities." "But I don't even know him," Maya protested. "Knowledge comes after bonding," a younger female interjected, stepping forward. "I am Dexara, healer and bond sister to Therak. The crests never lie, they sense life patterns that complement. Many valkari never find such alignment." Therak's posture straightened with pride. "The outsider will adapt, she has strength." "My name is Maya, not outsider," she corrected, finding her scientific curiosity overriding her apprehension. "I need to understand this bond you're describing. Is it biochemical, electromagnetic? What exactly happened when I touched your crests?" The gathered valkari exchanged glances that Maya interpreted as surprise. "She questions like a knowledge keeper," Elder Kasira observed. "Perhaps the stars are wiser than we understood." She gestured toward a crystalline structure. "Come, Maya who questions. The ancestral pool will show what words cannot explain." Therak guided Maya toward the structure, his touch surprisingly gentle for a being of such strength. "Kavai must observe ritual before full clan acceptance," he explained. 3 cycles of challenges to prove worthiness." "I didn't agree to any challenges," Maya said firmly. Therak's lower eyes blinked in what she was beginning to recognize as amusement. "Rejection of bond is also challenge, most difficult of all." "What happens if I refuse these challenges?" Dexara answered before Therak could. "Bond rejection causes the crests to dim permanently. Therak would become shadow-marked, forever diminished among our kind." Maya looked up at Therak, noting for the first time a vulnerability behind his warrior facade. The ethical implications were staggering. Her accidental touch could essentially ruin his life among his people. 3 cycles, Maya said cautiously. "How long is a cycle?" "From dark sleep to next dark sleep," Therak replied. "So, days, 3 days." Maya took a deep breath. "I can at least learn about your culture for 3 days while I figure this out." Elder Kasira led them into the crystalline structure, where a pool of luminous liquid swirled with colors Maya couldn't name. "Place your hand with Therak's in the ancestral pool," the elder instructed. "See the truth of your connection." With scientific curiosity overriding her hesitation, Maya allowed Therak to guide her hand into the strange liquid alongside his. The moment their hands submerged, her vision exploded with images, Therak's memories, emotions, and something deeper she couldn't identify. She felt his initial surprise at their encounter, his reverence when the crests ignited, and an undercurrent of profound loneliness suddenly filled with hope. As their hands withdrew, Maya gazed at Therak with new understanding. Whatever this bond was, it wasn't merely a cultural tradition. It was something physiological, perhaps even quantum. And despite her rational mind's protests, she couldn't deny the unexpected flutter in her chest when Therak's 4 eyes met hers. "First light brings first challenge," Elder Kasira announced. "Rest now, Star Traveler. Tomorrow you begin learning what it means to be valkari." "Grip tighter with your thighs," Therak instructed as Maya struggled to maintain her position on the Kavrek, a 6-legged creature resembling a cross between a horse and a lizard. "It senses your uncertainty." The creature bellowed, nearly bucking Maya from its iridescent scaled back. 2 days into her challenges, and she was discovering muscles she never knew existed. Yesterday had involved gathering specific bioluminescent fungi from underwater caves, a task requiring both precise scientific observation and physical endurance. "On Earth, we typically start with riding lessons before jumping straight to racing through a jungle," Maya retorted, nevertheless adjusting her grip as instructed. "Your Earth sounds without challenge," Tharok replied, effortlessly guiding his own mount alongside hers. "How do your people know their strength?" "We have methods," Maya said dryly, but found herself smiling despite her discomfort. Over the past 2 days, she had observed fascinating aspects of valkari society. Their seemingly primitive exterior concealed sophisticated bioengineering. They didn't build technology so much as grow and adapt the natural environment. Their connection to the planet's ecosystem was symbiotic rather than exploitative. She had also noticed changes in herself. The neural connection established through Tharok's touch had continued developing, allowing her not only to understand their language but occasionally glimpse his emotions, particularly when they touched. "Final ridge ahead," Tharok announced. "First, a summit completes today's challenge." "And if I win?" Maya asked, feeling unexpectedly competitive. All four of Tharok's eyes focused on her, his crests pulsing with a new intensity. "Then you choose tonight's pleasure ritual." Heat rushed to Maya's face. Though no explicit pleasure rituals had occurred, Tharok's meaning was unmistakable. Their sleeping arrangements had involved separate but adjacent spaces in his dwelling, with an undeniable tension growing between them. "And if you win," she countered. "Then I choose," he replied, his deep voice resonating with implications that sent a shiver down her spine. Before she could respond, he spurred his mount forward. Competitive instinct kicked in, and Maya leaned low over her Kovrek's neck, urging it faster. The creature responded to her newfound confidence, accelerating with surprising speed. They raced neck and neck up the winding path, hooves and claws sending vibrant spores into the air with each impact. Maya's scientific mind cataloged the ecological implications even as her body moved instinctively with the creature beneath her. As they approached the summit, Maya spotted a shortcut, a dangerous-looking leap across a narrow ravine. Without overthinking, she guided her mount toward it. She heard Tharok's surprised shout as she committed to the reckless maneuver. For one heart-stopping moment, Maya was airborne, the vista of the alien landscape spread beneath her. Then her mount landed with jarring force on the other side, nearly unseating her, but ultimately carrying her triumphantly to the summit several lengths ahead of Tharok. When he arrived, his crests were pulsing rapidly, the valkari equivalent of elevated heart rate, she'd learned. "That was," he began. "Reckless, dangerous," Maya suggested, dismounting on surprisingly steady legs. "Magnificent," Tharok corrected, his voice dropping to a register that made something primal stir within her. "No valkari has beaten me in summit race since childhood." As the twin suns began their descent, they sat together at the edge of the summit, surveying the breathtaking landscape. In the distance, the crashed remains of Maya's vessel glinted, a reminder of the world she'd left behind. "Your vessel cannot be repaired?" Tharok asked, following her gaze. "No, the communication array is destroyed, and even if Earth received a signal, it would take years for anyone to reach this sector." She surprised herself with the lack of despair in her voice. "You consider staying among valkari, then, not merely for challenge cycle?" Maya turned to look at him directly. "I'm a scientist, Tharok. Everything here, your biology, your society, your connection to this ecosystem, it's unprecedented. I could study it for lifetimes." "Study only, or live within?" His question carried deeper meaning. Before she could answer, a distant alarm cry echoed across the valley. Tharok stood immediately, his posture alert. "Perimeter breach," he explained tersely. "We must return." His crests dimmed slightly. "Tonight's pleasure ritual must wait." Maya found herself unexpectedly disappointed as they mounted their Kovrek for the urgent journey back to the settlement. "The outsider has no place in council discussion," growled Dravik, a massive valkari warrior whose crests were notched with battle scars. "Particularly not matters of defense." "My bondmate stays," Tharok replied firmly, his hand protectively on Maya's shoulder. The past day had brought unexpected complications, incursions at the settlement's boundaries by unknown entities. Elder Kasira raised her hand for silence. "Maya scientist has knowledge of technologies beyond our understanding. Her perspective may provide insight." "Or she may be connected to these intrusions," Dravik countered. "Her vessel fell from stars just before they began." Maya stepped forward. "My ship's crash was an accident. I was conducting biological research when we hit an unexpected gravitational anomaly. She activated her portable data tablet, displaying holographic star charts. I represent the Earth Science Consortium, not any military organization. Her defense was interrupted by a commotion outside the council chamber. A younger valkari burst in, bearing a strange object, sleek, metallic, and distinctly technological in origin. Found at eastern boundary, the scout reported. It attacked with energy pulses when detected. Maya examined the disabled drone with growing concern. This isn't from my ship. This is military-grade technology, Earth Military Division, based on these markings. Tharok's crests darkened. You claimed no warriors followed you. None did to my knowledge, Maya's mind raced. Unless, my research. Before the crash, I was documenting unusual biological properties in this sector's lifeforms, properties with potential pharmaceutical applications. Understanding dawned across Elder Kasira's features. Your discoveries were valuable. Extremely, certain corporations would pay fortunes for biological compounds with healing properties. Maya looked up grimly. They must have tracked my vessel's trajectory after losing contact. Dravik slammed his fist against the chamber wall. So you brought hunters to our world. Not intentionally, Maya protested, then turned to Tharok. Remember when we visited the crystal pools yesterday, the symbiotic relationship between the crystalline formations and the fungal networks. That regenerative property alone would revolutionize medicine on Earth, but harvesting it would destroy your entire ecosystem. Tharok studied her face intently, his 4 eyes unblinking. You understand what is at risk. I do, and I believe I can help protect it. Maya projected her tablet's scan of the drone. These units are automated scouts. They'll be followed by extraction teams with similar technology. Your warriors are formidable, but energy weapons would cause heavy casualties. For hours, Maya worked with the Valkari Council, developing strategies that combined Earth science with Valkari knowledge of the terrain. Throughout the discussion, she noticed Dravik watching her with calculating eyes. Later, as she and Tharok returned to his dwelling, he finally spoke the concern that had been evident in his posture. You could return with these Earth warriors, rejoin your kind. Maya stopped walking. Is that what you think I want? It would be logical. His crests dimmed slightly. Your challenge cycle completes tomorrow. No bond is finalized until then. Before she could respond, a sharp pain bloomed at the back of her neck. Maya stumbled forward into Tharok's arms as darkness edged her vision. Poison dart, she heard him growl before consciousness slipped away. She awoke to find herself bound inside a crude shelter, with Dravik looming over her. The Earth warriors approach, he said coldly. You will tell them of our weaknesses, secure my place as new leader, and leave with them. He gestured to an unconscious form in the corner, Tharok, his crests alarmingly dim. Or watch your bondmate perish from slow venom. Maya's scientific mind rapidly assessed options, even as her heart constricted at the sight of Tharok's vulnerable form. The neural connection between them flickered weakly in her consciousness. You're making a mistake, she warned Dravik. These aren't peaceful explorers. They'll extract what they want and destroy everything in their path, including you. Dravik merely smiled. We shall see whose judgment proves wiser. The pleasure bond you've formed with Tharok clouds your thinking. As Dravik exited, Maya realized with startling clarity that her feelings for Tharok had indeed grown far beyond scientific fascination or physical attraction. The question now was whether she could save him and his people before it was too late. Maya worked frantically to free herself, using a shard of crystalline material that had broken off during her struggle. The distant sounds of energy weapons confirmed her worst fears. The Earth Military Division's extraction team had arrived. When she finally reached Tharok's side, his breathing was shallow, crests barely glowing. Using her limited medical knowledge and what she'd learned from Dexara, she identified the specific venom Dravik had used, a neurotoxin from the marshland predators. Its effects could be reversed with enzyme compounds found in the same crystal fungal formations the EMD had come to harvest. Hold on, she whispered to Tharok, establishing their neural connection through touch. Through it, she sent images of her plan rather than words. Escaping the crude prison, Maya navigated the chaotic settlement. The Valkari were mounting a spirited defense, but the technological advantage of the Earth forces was evident. She spotted Dravik conferring with a uniformed human, clearly making his treacherous deal. Maya reached the sacred pool chamber undetected. Working quickly, she harvested specific crystal formations, crushing them to release the needed enzymes. But as she turned to leave, she found herself facing the barrel of a pulse rifle. "Dr. Kincaid," said the soldier holding it, his EMD insignia marking him as a commander. "Quite the survivor. Your research data was considered valuable enough to mount this retrieval operation." "This isn't a retrieval, it's an invasion," Maya replied. "These beings have intelligence, culture, language." "They have resources," the commander interrupted. "Your cooperation will make this easier for everyone. We already have a local ally providing access to the primary crystal deposits." "Dravik doesn't understand what you're planning. Once you've extracted what you want, this entire ecosystem will collapse." The commander shrugged. "Unfortunate but necessary. Medical applications of these compounds will save millions of human lives." "At the cost of an entire civilization." Maya clutched the crushed crystals behind her back. "I can't let that happen." What followed was a desperate gambit. Maya pitched the enzymatic mixture into the sacred pool, causing a reaction that sent bioluminescent energy pulsing through the interconnected fungal network throughout the settlement. The unexpected surge temporarily disabled the EMD's electronic systems, including their weapons. In the confusion, Maya escaped, making her way back to Tharok with the antidote. As she administered it, the settlement's defense took advantage of the technological disruption. Elder Kasira had understood Maya's desperate message through the crystal network and mobilized their forces. By the time Tharok regained consciousness, the tide had turned. The Valkari's intimate knowledge of their environment proved decisive once the technological advantage was neutralized. Dravik and the EMD forces retreated toward their landing craft, pursued by Valkari warriors. "You saved me," Tharok said, his voice weak but his crests brightening. "Saved all Valkari." "I couldn't let them destroy everything." Maya helped him stand. "Your world has so much to teach mine, about symbiosis rather than exploitation, but not like this, not through force." They made their way to the village center, where Elder Kasira was organizing the final defense. The elder's eyes widened at their approach. "The bond cycle completes today," she observed, looking between them. "What path do you choose, Maya scientist?" Maya took a deep breath, looking at the alien world around her, at once strange and increasingly familiar. She thought of Earth, of her research colleagues who likely believed her dead, of the life she had left behind. Then she looked at Tharok, whose 4 eyes held emotions that required no translation. "I choose to stay," she said firmly. "As a scientist, as an ambassador between our worlds and—" She took Tharok's hand, feeling the now familiar neural connection strengthen, as Kavai to Tharok. "The decision must be clear," Elder Kasira warned. "The final bond ritual cannot be undone." "I understand," Maya smiled. "Sometimes the most important discoveries happen by accident." That night, as the remaining EMD forces retreated into space, Maya and Tharok completed the bond ritual beneath the triple moons. The neural connection that had begun with an accidental touch deepened into something profound and permanent, a bridge between 2 worlds, 2 species, 2 beings. Later, in the privacy of their dwelling, Maya traced the now brilliantly glowing crests along Tharok's head. "I still maintain I didn't know what I was getting into when I touched these." Tharok's rumbling laugh vibrated through her. "Yet you do not regret." "Not anymore." She pressed closer to his alien yet increasingly familiar form. "Though I'm going to need a larger research journal. Human-Valkari relations is going to be quite the extensive field of study." "We begin research now?" Tharok asked, his voice dropping to that resonant frequency that never failed to send shivers through her. "I believe in thorough investigation," Maya replied, pulling him closer. "Multiple trials may be required." As their bodies joined in ways neither of their species had imagined possible, Maya reflected that some bonds, accidental or not, were simply written in the stars.